Hello and welcome back to LIVENODING. In this episode, I want to show you these effects created using geometry nodes. I've done this some in the past using SKETCHFAB, and it's just like balls and then a bunch of points, and you just try to connect the dots, find the nearest points between the points, and you connect the dots. So you get this stick. So this is ball and stick using geometry nodes. So let's take a look at this. Let's go backward. First of all, let's take a look at the material. We have the material for the stick, which is just like this silver color. And we have the ball, which is just like a random color. Using object info, you plug into color ramp, you can change the color of the ramp, and then plug into the base color. So we have this random color. So that should be pretty easy. While the geometry node setup itself is looking like this. It might seem complicated, but let me show you the breakdown very quickly. So we start with this random value points. I make it between -3 and 3, just random points, and then I can randomize the seed, and we can create as many or as less points as we want. And then we have two parts, of course, the balls, which is the original points, and I just simply instance an icosphere and then set shade smooth and then assign the ball material. So that's one part. If I disconnect it, oops, yeah, if we look at the stick part, it seems complicated, but there is one node that's actually doing the job. It's this index of nearest and sample index. So index of nearest basically will give you back from the current position of the original points. Let's say we have 200 points. It's gonna look at that position, and then it's gonna find index of the nearest points position. In this case, the vector that we can sample. So just plug in the index and the position. Sometimes I think the nodes in geometry nodes, it's kind of like low level. It's really sometimes a little bit tricky to use, but if you pair them and you kind of look at the examples, it's much easier. And then we store the values in here, and then we want to connect the dots using curved lines. So this is the way to do it. Probably this is something that you just remember. It's just slightly weird. Basically curved lines, and we instance the curved line, and we just connect the dots based on this capture attributes plugged into the position. So I think the last points of the curve is getting its value from this guy. If I disconnect something, you might notice, if I disconnect this, okay, you see, you get something that's completely different. It's like all the curve is at 0, 0, 0, and then connected to whatever position, whatever random positions coming from this guy. But if I plug this and sample the index, now we have something slightly different, more like stars in the sky, and if you connect the stars, get the nearest points and then just connect the dots, and you get these shapes, and then you start to maybe draw something and just call it Sagittarius or Cancer or Pisces. It looks like a fish, for example. Yeah, so that's really the idea. And then you get the curve position data, and then you just use curve to mesh and turn it into a stick, set material, and that's done. If you want to know how I found this, actually the whole setup is actually here. It's from Blender Stack Exchange. Someone asked what is group ID, so I didn't explain the group ID, and because I didn't use it here, just for simplicity. But there's an answer here from Quellen Form. I don't know who he or she is, but I think the explanation is really well done. I simply recreate this, and then if you want to learn about the group ID, just try the second part. Just rebuild the setup yourself. Yeah, this using the group ID. I believe you can group the points based on the face, for example, and then connect the dots that way. I haven't really understand or figured out how you want, if you want to connect the dots more like if you want to spread the dots, you know, how many index you want to the points to look. But that's probably gonna be for future videos. But I just want to show you, I found the answer from here, and I just decided to make video of this and make this example because it's important. And if you really want to look at another example of index of nearest, take a look at this from 3D Sync VFX. Take a look at this circle packing or sphere packing. Basically a way you can set it up so you can create circle or sphere that's kind of close and touching each other without overlapping. Take a look at that video, and then because I tried that myself as well, and then this is what I end up with. Okay, it's really cool effects, and with this one the setup of course slightly different, but simple enough, and it's really great example actually. Look, it's using the same thing, index of nearest, evaluate. Oh, instead of sample, this one says evaluate at index, which is interesting, and just find the distance and whatever points kind of close together, scale it down until it's only touching and it's not overlapping. So that's really what this guy is doing. The rest of them just instancing, and this is just to store the value of the noise and radius. It's actually for beginner geometry nodes user, this is gonna be slightly complicated, but once you understand what's going on, it's much simpler. So yeah, this is just following the cool dip example. I don't want to repeat the whole video tutorial, but I just want to show you two examples how you can use this index of nearest node. I think you're gonna use this node a lot because, and the way geometry nodes work, it's always work like in a field. Imagine you have points in the field and you want to connect the dots, and geometry nodes will always perform the whole things at the same time. That's why it feels slightly confusing, but what you really want to do, sometimes a single node handles a lot the calculation for you already, so you just need to connect the dots. In this case, yeah, if I'm using sphere chalk, I can actually, there's one node that allowing you to find the nearest points and then grow the points nearest using n value. So you can actually grow the points, so it's gonna connect, eventually they're gonna connect to each other. In this one, it seems to be smart enough not to create its own boundary, so they're almost like a star. So yeah, if we want to replace this with Suzanne, let's create Suzanne. Mesh Suzanne. I almost forgot where Suzanne is. Okay, Suzanne. Just plug this geometry, distribute points on faces. So instead of random value points, we want to we want to create a bridge like that, and yeah, okay, let's see if this is really working, Suzanne. Oh yeah, but where is the connector? Okay, the ball is probably too big. There we go, there we go, still connected with the radius. Okay, it's not bad, right? It's not bad. With the recent Blender, you can actually, if you are using cycles, you can actually render curve with thickness, and you can render sphere as well. It's kind of like hair curves, even without the radius of the curves, you can actually render it out. So this is kind of nice example with Suzanne, right? So random or using Poisson disk, yeah. You have the minimum and maximum. Yeah, I think it's kind of nice. I like this. So that's really the whole setup. It's using these nodes, index of nearest, sample to index. It's hard to understand, but even with the online manual, it's like, oh, you read it, okay, yeah, it's gonna give you back the index. Has neighbor, maybe I haven't touched this, but this node doesn't have example. So the only way is to find example is from Blender Stack Exchange, like this. This is a great example. And you look at other video tutorials. Maybe this explanation has been done by another YouTuber, but this is how you learn, basically. Okay, so hopefully you find this useful. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.